Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I want to do a quick disassembly and maintenance on this little guy. This is the ProTech Knives SBR, or short-bladed rock eye. Full disclosure, this was sent to me directly from ProTech Knives. They sent this guy to me as a review sample. So thank you very much for that, ProTech. And if you're ever curious about the tools I'm using for my disassembly, for instance, this little Weehaw bit set kit here, or any of the other things I'm using, go ahead and check my knife disassembly toolkit video. It's over there at nickshabazz.com/tools. So, anyways, let's go ahead and take this guy apart. One thing to consider is this is an automatic knife right here. This is an auto knife, and you want to make sure that the blade is out when you're taking it apart because there is spring tension under there. And if you release everything and there's still spring tension, there's still a little bit of tension here as it stands, but it will potentially pop things loose and come flying. You don't want your blade to go flying. There are many things you want out of a blade, but flying is never one of them. Well, okay, that may not be true. Maybe if you are a Shaolin something or another, and maybe then you're all about the flying blades. But for me, at least, I don't want my blades to fly. Well, I do if I'm, like, packing a bag for Blade Show. In that case, I do, but I want them to fly in my, checked luggage, of course. Speaking of legal questions here, one question I know I'm going to get a lot for this guy is, well, Nick, this is the SBR. This is, which actually has a longer blade than you might expect. But anyways, this is over 2 inches. Isn't that illegal around your parts? Yes and no. This is illegal to carry in the state of California. You are not allowed, for whatever silly reason, to carry a knife that is over 2 inches and automatic in the state of California. They have decided that there is a magical line at which 2 inches is a greater than that is a crazy, violence machine, and anything under that is just fine. It's a little toy or something like that. I'm not going to get deeply into the politics of this, and if the substance of your entire comment has to do with California or some other craziness, feel free to just not comment at all. Everyone will be happier. But the fact is, though, as a result, this review is going to be a little different than most of my reviews because they're perfectly legal to own, though, by the way, so don't worry about that. But as a result, though, I'm not going to really get a chance to carry this guy. And generally speaking, I don't like to do reviews where I don't get the chance to carry it. But this is a case where it's like I've handled a bunch of ProTech stuff in my everyday life. I know that their quality is, generally speaking, pretty good, and this is a design that I find actually pretty attractive. I think it's a neat little design, so I still wanted to check one out, even if I was only going to be able to use it around the house for a little while. So, take that for what it's worth. This review is going to be based on a different set of circumstances than most. Would that I lived in a state where that wasn't a concern at all. Certainly, that is one of the things I sacrificed when I moved to California. But at the same time, I have not yet worn a jacket this year that is greater than a single small layer of fleece. So that's kind of nice. Well, actually, that's not true. I visited Utah in January, but still. So you win some, you lose some, right? So this is an automatic knife. As you probably can tell, it's got a button lock, and then it's got this little spring down here that keeps everything in, that allows everything to fire out, so to speak. This spring puts torsion into the whole system and means that when you press that button lock button, the whole knife, fires open, it pops open. And this spring seems to be anchored in on this side over here, and then it, sits into this little groove down here. Oh, interesting. Groove's facing a different direction. But, yeah, so it's an automatic knife. At some level, the question here is not so much like a free drop-shutting action. It will never drop shut because you have to push it shut because it's under spring tension. That's okay. So instead, the bigger question here is just like smoothness. As a result, I'm going to use this 85 weight oil rather than my normal 10 or 15 weight here. And that should make things a little bit it'll keep the oil in one place a little bit better. One other thing to note is that this knife doesn't have washers. It just has these DLC'd, basically machined into the aluminum chunks right here. Is that ideal? I don't know. This knife, again, though, being an automatic, it's not like it's not going to deploy. The action on these guys is actually, the automatic action is a different thing, but it's not like I'm worried about this guy popping loose or not, falling under its own weight, etc. That's not a factor. So the fact that they're using, the DLC will make it lower friction, just, I think, inherently. That's a part of its goal here. But it's just, I don't know. It's a different approach, and for an auto, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, now reassembling these guys gets a little bit trickier, so I'll go ahead and show you how that works. See on this spring here, there's this little tail, right? This little tail needs to go into this little groove. And I need to make sure I'm doing this in the proper way, because what I'm doing as I'm turning this right now is I am tensioning this spring. I am popping this knife together. Why is this binding a little bit here? Did I not lubricate the pivot? Maybe I did not lubricate the pivot. I did not. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. So you need to make sure, though, that that spring is properly seated, that that spring is in that little groove there, because the rotation against that spring is what's going to make this guy lock and unlock together. And so when I let loose, when I pop loose the button lock, what you're going to see happen is the blade is going to come flying open under that spring tension. Okay, bro. There we go. And then it will fire open. So the first step is making sure that that spring is seated into that groove and putting the blade down there together. The next step is seating the button lock. And that's actually a little tricky, but not in a... it's tricky in that there is a trick to it. At least there has been on many ProTechs. Right now, if I'm just trying to shove this down into there, it's not going to work. Because the tolerances are such that it cannot slide past, and it makes sense. You don't want your button lock shooting out past the knife. But if I lift the blade off of its pivot for just a moment, and that was a very quick thing. Here, I'll do it again. So right now, I've got the blade seated there, and I can't get it into its hole. But if I lift the blade very, very slightly, that allows me to get that seated through, and then, now the button lock here is trapped underneath the blade. So it's not going to be flying off anywhere, which is a helpful thing. Now I look one more time. I make sure I've not forgotten anything. It's, nothing that's outside of the knife should be inside of the knife, that kind of details, right? And then what I'm going to do is start popping things back together. My goal is to make sure that the stop pin, which right now is mounted in this little guy right here, gets put into position. I also want to make sure that the button lock pops into place, pivots in place, all of those things should be in place before I, lock everything back together. So, okay, right now, are we in position here? I'm going to pull the blade back. That'll help us get everything further into position. Everything's pinched tight. We're good to go. Okay. Next step here is going to be to put in the pivot. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of blue thread locker. Did I already plug nickshabazz.com/tools? I hope so. Well, either way, if I didn't, that's where all my tools are listed. Put a little thread locker on here. Pop this loose. Now at this point, I am out of the danger zone. I can deploy this blade. He says not being able to deploy this blade. What am I doing wrong here? Maybe I've got this too tight. Yeah. There we go. I can deploy this blade. Now that I got that pivot is not crazy tight, I can deploy this blade. So everything works well in that domain. There we go. And nothing happens. And I can prove that the action is working, that the spring is installed as intended, etc. I, of course, want to reinstall those other screws, but at this point in time, the knife is largely going to be safe. If I'm not pressing that button, it's not going to come firing loose out of there. So I'll go ahead and screw the rest of these guys in. By the way, I'm using a 1/16 Allen key for the smaller bits, and I'm using a... Come on there, 3/32. Really? SW 3/32? Or is that 339? I don't know. Whatever the heck it is. I am... 1/16 is bigger than 3/30. Yeah, I guess so, right? Anyways, I'm using these different size drivers here. And that's letting me get my work done here. What was I even saying? It's been a long day. Frankly, it's been a long week. Frankly, it's been a long month. It's just been long, okay? Work with me here. So I've got these screws laid out as they came off the knife, so that'll keep everything sort of in position. And I'm just going to tighten these guys back into place here. Never had to remove the clip. Nice. But yeah, this is nicely done. You know, automatic knives are a little gimmicky in my estimation. I've never been a huge fan of them. However, ProTech is doing them pretty right. And what I mean by that is that their designs are relatively simple. This is really actually simpler than most of your everyday, flip or frame locky knives. The lock is just a button lock, and those take, good tolerances and whatnot to get right, but there's not really that much complexity here. The spring itself it's just a single spring, and it's, okay, I bet I can loosen that up a little bit, and that'll run a little bit better. Because I'm hearing a little bit of scrape-a-tube. Oh, maybe it's actually because I over-tightened this back guy here, which is keeping things. Yeah. So let me adjust that here. But anyways, I appreciate the simplicity of many of their designs, and even some of their more complex ones, like the ProTech Magic. There we go. That complexity, or that simplicity, that is something I do appreciate, and it's something I appreciate here as well. There we go. Beautiful. Absolutely no play. Dead freaking scented. And as a result of, by the way, of the automatic action, they're very easy. They deploy pretty reliably, etc. So I do like this. I think the side fire autos are much more compelling to me, and this one is, I mean, you saw the inside of it. A little bit of trick there, but it's mostly just, it's a pretty simple mechanical system, and it works as intended. So anyways, there you go. That is that's the disassembly for your ProTech SBR here, in collaboration with Les George. Hope this has been interesting to you, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.